Into the ball game as Paul McKeskey has become kind of a cult hero in Milwaukee, Tommy.
Roberts hits McKeskey at the other end.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of We Got Next. I'm Ricky Hampton with my great friend, the big fella, Paul McKeskey, the pride of the Milwaukee Bucks. And Mo, you did have some legendary status when you played in Milwaukee, man. People love when you would come into the games down there. So that's a great intro. Thanks to Tony and all the guys for setting us up with that. Welcome, everybody out there. Want to hear your questions and comments. But first and foremost, how you doing, big fella?
I'm good, man. That's why they used to call it Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. That's right. Absolutely. Mo, I'm glad you got your Jayhawks cap on, man.
We're back. We won a game. Man. We're back.
Man, that's got to be a strange feeling for Kansas Jayhawks fans because y'all are so used to being top 5. I mean, if you're in the top 10 and you're the Jayhawks, you're like, what's going on?
No, I mean, we're in the top 10, but to be out of the top 25, it's really scary because, you know, it's frustrating for me as an alumni, a lot of us alumni, because they have the talent, a point guard, a big guy, athletic wings, you know, and they're just not playing hard and they're not playing the way they should play. When they do, like they did Saturday, they beat Oklahoma State by 30 or 40. But when they play halfway, then they lose to Utah, whose coach got fired, by the way, today.
Yep.
Utah beat Kansas last week, and they fired their coach. That's how bad it is. Usually, if you beat Kansas, you keep the job.
You're trying to get a contract extension, man.
Yeah.
You beat the Jayhawks.
But not this year. And, they're looking at probably a 6th seed, and it's going to be interesting to see, what they do with that.
Hey, Mo, do you think, and we didn't talk about any of this before we went on the air. We usually, folks out there, do our little pregame walkthrough and talk about issues. But just kind of off the top of your head, since you mentioned that, it seems like there's a lot of parity in basketball. I know UConn has had a run, but essentially a lot of really good teams. Do you think that the transfer portal and NIL money has evened some of that stuff out?
Yes, absolutely. UConn this year, last year they won the championship, right?
Yeah.
This year, horrible, terrible. They're not in the top 25 either. Because they lost a couple players to the draft, and then they didn't pick up the right guys in the transfer portal. And, that's money, and being able to move at will changes the game, obviously. But you need the money. I mean, I've told you before, I'll tell everybody, you give me the University of Las Vegas job and give me $2 million in NIL money, I'll get you in the Final Four next year. You won't even have to wait a year. I'll get you in next year. Because you can do it. You pick the right guys, you pay the right guys, they can move right away and play next year. It's a free agency with no salary cap.
Yeah. And you know what these guys got to do now? First, you got to recruit them to come. Then you got to recruit them to stay or whatever. Because now everybody can. All these are 1-year deals that are going on now, Mo.
Yeah. Because you can move. I've said this, and you can't do both. You can't throw in the NIL money and then throw in the transfer portal. You're free to move at will at the same time. It doesn't work. NCAA screwed it up. They messed it up. They did the wrong thing, and now it's too late to fix it. So now you have to adapt. You got to get a general manager. It's professional. You have money. You have a free agency. It's like if the NBA, every player in the NBA was a free agent at the end of the year. How about that?
That's exactly what it is, Paul. And welcome everybody out there. Our man Wooday's talked. Yep, you're absolutely right. UConn won the last two, but even with them winning the last two, they're still
terrible.
But
They're terrible.
what I was saying earlier, yeah, UConn was sitting at the top, but there were a lot of really good teams capable of getting to the Final Four because of that. And now they've lost guys, and that's what's going on.
Well, here's how even it is, Ricky. Who did UConn beat at the Final Four? What team did they beat?
Was it North Carolina State?
San Diego State.
San Diego State.
San Diego State is in the Final Four competing for a championship.
Right. Yeah.
When has that happened before? Never. That's my point. And I'm telling you, give me $2 million NIL money, and I'll get you in the Final Four next year. No problem.
Yeah.
Pick the right guys.
I'm looking at some of the teams that were there. NC State did. Alabama was there.
Okay, 2 years ago they beat San Diego State.
Yeah, but think about Alabama at the Final Four in basketball. I mean,
and money, transfer portal.
Yeah,
and that's what's hurt Kansas. Kansas has never done the transfer portal till the last 2 years when they got Hunter Dickinson from Michigan. And this year they went into the portal and they got 5 players, and most of them are doing nothing. They got a kid, Stores, from Wisconsin, who averaged 17 points a game last year at Wisconsin, and he's averaging 6 points a game this year for Kansas. So they spent the money, but they got the wrong players because they've never done it before. Bill Self has never had the coach transfer portal guys at that. They have 5 of them. 1 or 2 is different than getting 5 transfer portal guys and trying to mold them into a team. That's not what Kansas, that's not what Kentucky, that's not what these hybrid colleges have done over the years. They've recruited freshmen to replace juniors, and you know they go. That's not the rule of the game anymore. Any team can get any player they want if they have the money. Period. End of story.
Hey, Marcus, thank you for tuning in, brother. We're glad to have you. We're glad to have everybody. Here's an interesting comment, Mo. I want to get your thoughts from what age. I think most people were for college players making money, but not millions. More like money to help them make ends meet. And you played at a big-time program where you guys probably got some meal money, and at the end of the month, a little stipend. Your thoughts on that? On what he said?
What's that question again?
I think most people were for college players making money, but not millions.
Yes. I agree with that. I got $15 a month, Ricky. That's what I got.
Yeah.
$15. They called it meal. They call it laundry money. $15. I mean, I know Hunter Dickinson of Kansas is making $1.4 million.
Right.
For his second year. I know guys that are playing at UNLV and all these mid-level colleges are making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. But you know, you can't have you can't have a free agency and there's no salary cap. Then this is what happens. And I think it affects players because now, you know, it used to be, you know, you say it all the time, right, Ricky? You play for the name on the front of your jersey, not the back of your jersey.
Right.
That's not true anymore. If I'm making $1 million and I'm at Kansas and I lose a couple games in a row, that's no big deal. You know, I'm still getting my check, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. We started something, Mo. This just kind of came and passed. But that's the great thing about this show. Hey, we can drive off your conversations and your comments. NIL versus collective is not what most perceive from Marcus. And points don't all. No, go ahead, Mo.
It's all about the money, though, Marcus. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. It's about the money. If it's coming from a collective from a university or it's coming from private companies, it's still about the money. It's and I can move. If I go to Alabama and I have a good year and they're paying me $500,000 and North Carolina calls me up and says, we'll give you $1 million, I can go play if I want. I can play next year. Thank you. I just got a 100% raise, right?
Yeah. And the kids don't care where the money's coming from. They don't. They just want the money. Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care about what name is on my check. I just care if I can cash it. But here's what players are starting to learn too, that it's profession now. Players out there, you're professional players now. So guess what? You need to get a written contract and signed contract. You can't go by some text from the coach, like Miami players or UNLV players found out that you're going to get X amount, and then you get there and there's only half of that. You need to get it in writing. Be professional.
Yeah. You have players staying because they don't want to take a pay cut, getting drafted into the later rounds.
Absolutely. No question that Hunter Dickinson came back to Kansas to make $1.5 million, because if he gets drafted in the second round, your money's not guaranteed. Number one, you'll probably be in the G League. At the most, you're probably making $300,000 as a two-way player. G League, NBA. That's at the most. Or you could be making, $38,000 as a G League player. Or your option is to go overseas and roll the dice. Do I go to Italy and make $500,000-$600,000? Do I go to China and try to make $1 million and live in China? So it's a whole different ballgame. I don't blame them. Flag from Duke is saying he might stay next year.
Yeah,
he's going to be the first pick in the draft. When you're the first pick in the draft, you make $10 million a year for 3 years. It's $30 million.
Yeah.
But he can make 2 or 3, or the best player in college basketball, the best high school player in high school basketball is going to BYU next year. He's going to make $7 million.
That is absolutely nuts, Mo. It is.
You know what it's looking like, Ricky? When I watch college games now for a lot of it, I see players that look like they're playing in an AAU tournament, and they got another game this afternoon. That's what they look like. They have very little emotion. They don't get upset or get too high usually, and they're just kind of playing. That's what the AAU looks like. I got 2 more games today.
Hey Mo, Hunter Dickinson was here in Ann Arbor. His freshman year, man, he looked like he was going to be a first-round draft pick, and he played his best ball his freshman year. What do you think about him now as a future NBA player?
Well, he played his best basketball last year at Kansas. He averaged 20 and 10 at Kansas. So, but he's like Zach Edey. He's 7'1". He's long. Has no athletic ability. He's a good passer. He has no range on his jump shot consistently. And he's going to be playing against Wembanyama or guys like that. So, he struggles against pick and roll coverage, but Zach Edey has come along but Zach Edey's 7'4" or 7'5". So, I think,
and Edey moves better than you think too now.
Yeah, but Zach Edey was player of the year for 2 straight years.
I didn't know he played that well. I didn't realize he played that well at Kansas last year.
Last year, he had a great year. He was up for the Wooden Award. He's a double-double guy, but that's classic. Some players are better in college, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely on that.
I mean, it's not like he's a 6'10" athletic guy that runs the floor, shoots threes, and can dunk it, right?
Yeah. Buck Wild in free agency, and you better perform. That's for sure. Hey, let's move over to where all these guys hope to go one day, I guess. The money may be so good that they ask for some
Yeah,
extra.
but eventually you got to leave. You can't play for 10 years, Ricky. You could play for 6. This is the Hunter Dickinson's 6th year.
Yeah, yeah. He's been
With
around
the
a while.
with the COVID year and the whatever. But yeah, you got eventually you got. But here's the idea, though: store
Yeah,
up as much money, make as much money as you can in college, put it in a bank account, get a good investment, and then do what you want when you come out.
Mo, that's what they told me at Virginia Union after a while. Ricky, you got to go, man. You can't just,
Yeah, yeah, but that wasn't your coach. That was your teacher saying, "Hey, you can't keep flunking out. You got to get out of here." And actually, that's wrong. I know guys when I was at Kansas, they were 25, 26 years old. They were still juniors. I just
just,
left them in this class.
just hanging around, man.
Yeah,
I'm telling
exactly. Being
you.
a
And you know
DJ
what?
and bartending.
As you well know, Mo, I mean, I could dig Cooper Flat deciding to stay because, I mean, nothing beats that college experience, man. That is a
For sure.
special time.
Well, okay, so you I hate to keep bringing it up, but I really relate. Hunter Dickinson is at Kansas playing against kids, right?
Yeah.
At 24, he's 24 years old. When I was 24 years old, I was starting for the team you're watching on TV right now, the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
At 24 years, that's where I was. But, if I could have stayed a couple more years and made $1 million and played against kids, are you kidding me? That's easy money, man. I mean, are you gonna guard Hunter Dickinson or somebody? Are you gonna guard Moses Malone and Kareem?
Yeah, exactly. A little easier to do. Hey, but speaking of the league, we didn't get a chance to get to this last week because I didn't think the announcement had been made. But San Antonio's going to be without Victor Wembanyama for the rest of the year, with blood clots in his shoulder, and just your thoughts on that. We definitely hope he gets better and gets through all of that. But those things can linger. We've had that here in Detroit with Ashar Thompson, who had his in his legs.
Yeah, mostly they're in the legs. But you remember years ago, it ended Chris Bosh's career. That's what he had in his legs.
Yeah.
And it's life-threatening. If that blood clot breaks off and goes to your lungs, you can die, or your heart. So, but it usually happens in the leg. I was really kind of thrown back that it's in his arm or shoulder area, which is very unusual. But I guess they say pitchers and baseball players get it sometimes in their upper extremities, but for a basketball player, it's usually in your legs, especially for a tall guy. But that's not a sprained ankle or knee surgery. That is life-threatening, and you got to take care of it. Be careful, and we hope and pray that it's just temporary, because a lot of guys have come back from that the next year, but also guys have not, like Chris Bosh. So I think he's young. He stretches. He takes care of his body. I think hopefully this is just throughout the season. He's not going to be able to play during the summer. And training camp, he'll be full speed, along with another person with the Spurs we're praying for, Greg Popovich, who is now announcing after his stroke early in the season that even though he's making progress, he's probably not coming back this year either. And I think the Wembanyama situation had something to do with that. And, he's not pushing himself as hard as he might because when you had Wemby and Chris Paul and they made the trade and got the, I can't remember the guy's name, the other player.
For San Antonio?
Yeah.
I'm going through the roster right now. If they brought in
I don't have it here.
I know you're not talking about Chris Paul coming in.
No. They got somebody help me out there. Malik somebody or somebody?
Malik, I'm looking at their roster and I don't see any Wimbiana.
Hunter. You got Hunter. D'Angelo Hunter, right?
No, I don't see Hunter on that roster. I see Barnes, Bassi, Biombo, Brandon, Castle, Champagne, Duke, Fox, De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, Fox, yeah. The really good wing. So
Right.
they were looking to make a move and move up, and now Wimby's out there, probably not looking at that anymore.
Yeah.
But hopefully both those people get better by next year, and we see them early on next season.
Well, let's get the other injury out of the way. Uh, Reports out of Philly is that uh, Joel Embiid may just shut it down for the rest of the year. They are 1-9 in their last 10 games. They've lost 7 straight. The Sixers are 20-36, 26 and a half games out of first place. And still only a game out of the play-in spot, game and a half behind the Bulls. If you're in that front office, what's the conversation you guys are having about Embiid?
Well, I think, here's the other thing to throw in that situation. If they finish where they are now, they lose their draft pick. They don't have a draft pick. They lose it in a trade. If they finish lower than they are now, they get to keep their draft pick. So, I'm pulling the plug on Embiid for sure, and maybe even Paul George. I mean, at this point, what are you playing for? To try and get in a play-in, but then you lose your draft pick, which could be a top 5, maybe the first pick. You don't know. So, but
yeah, I think the top 6 is protected with them. The top 6, any 7 and below, they can't protect.
So if you finish where they are, they have like a 50% chance of being in the top 6. If you finish one step below that, you're over 65% of finishing and getting the top 6 pick. So that they'll lose their pick for the most part if you're playing the odds. So, you hate to see a team lose or try to lose, but what's the point? And no one will take Embiid for anything of value.
Right.
Because
you seen his salary the next 4 years?
Yes. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, it's $55 million this year. It's $59 million next year. It's $64 million the year after that, and in 2028 and 29, it's $69 million. That's $70 million. And I keep telling you, Ricky, in the next 5 years, there's going to be $100 million a year player.
No, that is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, so you're looking at what? 122. You're looking at $180 million commitment if you take Embiid right now with a bum knee that's never gotten better.
Right.
What are you going to give for him?
Right.
And even, Paul George, who's not playing great, he's been out all year too, off and on. And he's making 51.6, then he's making 54, then he's got a player option of 56 million. So Daryl Morey is a nice guy. He works with trades and stuff, but he tends to pay his star players, too much and too long. He did it with Harden. He's done it with other players, and Embiid's there right now for sure. But you got to shut him down. He's hobbling around on one leg. He's not helping you at all. You're better off playing without him at this point.
That's right. You're 1-9, lost 7 straight. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so you're a game and a half out of the play-in. Ooh, that's great. You're going to lose that anyway. So, and he's not getting healthy. He had almost 10 days off for the All-Star break, and he came back on one leg. So whatever he did didn't work. And, at some point you got to say, we need to shut it down for 8 months and get whatever treatment we got to get. If we have to have surgery, we have surgery. If we have rehab, we have rehab. But at this point, you know what they always say? you know what? You're not hurting yourself any worse, if you keep playing. Yeah, but you're not getting any better either. You're on one leg. So what's the point?
Yeah, that is a problem for them. And there's always been questions about his conditioning, even when he was playing a lot of games. So I'm shutting him down more because I'm thinking about those next 3 years. I gotta pay him anyway. I gotta try to get the best version of him that I could. And thank you everybody out there, Mo. Everybody was telling me Fox, Fox, Fox.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
But I was
You got two old guys here. We don't know names very well. So
yeah, I was actually looking it up, so I didn't see it when it was coming through. But as always, we appreciate your questions, comments, and your helps and your assists out there.
Help us.
Hey, here's an interesting one from Marcus talking about Jaren Jackson in Memphis, who was having an outstanding year, but Marcus would not give him a super max. Yeah, and that your thoughts on Jackson and your thoughts on Memphis, Mo.
Well, I like Jared Jackson, and is he worth a super max? I don't know. Is anybody?
Yeah.
Anybody? But Memphis has a good combination of players. I kind of like their roster a little bit. With Jackson, who he was a rebounder guy. Now he's scoring at 23 points a game. You got Morant, you got Bain. You're thinking about the other Jackson anyway. You got Edie, who's a nice young big, but if you look at the top of the West, and Memphis is number 2 right now, but they're 9 games behind OKC. Is anybody in the West afraid of Memphis?
No.
Is Denver? Are the Lakers? Are the Warriors even afraid of them? Are Mavericks? Nobody's afraid of Memphis. They're afraid of OKC, rightfully so. But
I'm looking at Jackson's averaging essentially 23 points and 6 rebounds a game. I thought he was a better rebounder than that, actually.
He was. He used to be. I think last year he averaged 10. Yeah. But now, folks, he's scoring, right? So maybe that's not a bad idea. People pay you more for scoring than they do rebounding. They'll pay you for both, but
Marcus, he's a Robin, but never been a bad man when needed. Well, as long as John Moran is playing, he's not.
Yeah, he's Robin for sure. Yeah, because if John Moran can stay where he needs to stay and try and improve his game and get better. 2 years ago, John Morant was the face of the league. He was unstoppable. Then he had his problems. Then he got hurt, but he's still young. What is he? 23? I don't even know how old he is. But yeah, John Morant's the Batman in that team. On that team.
Yeah, and you speak of Memphis being the number 2. And I'm looking for Morant's age here, Mo. John Morant's age.
Yeah, they're number 2 by default. Nuggets
have 25 now. 25.
Yeah, in his prime.
He's been in the league 5 years. Yeah.
So Memphis is number 2, but does that mean anything? The Nuggets have been hurt. The Lakers made a big trade. Houston is dropping as we speak. The Clippers haven't had all their players. Minnesota's been a letdown. The Warriors made a big trade. The Mavs made a big trade, and they've still hurt. And the wonderful, wonderful Sacramento Kings, who made a great coaching change and really won 5 in a row, they're still at, 10th spot? So,
Yeah. And Mo, speaking of Houston, they are 3-7 in their last 10. And you're kind of not surprised about this because when they started off really hot, you had your questions about it.
I mean, they have a nice team. They have They have Sengun, who's a nice young big player. He's averaging 19 and 10. They have Jalen Green, who's really coming into his own. He's averaging 21. Van Fleet is still a decent player at 15. Amen Thompson, who is a nice young player, is averaging 14 and 8, having a really good year. Dylan Brooks, who's kind of their energy and their bad guy, their Bill Laimbeer type. And then they have some other guys that fill in. They got a decent roster, but can they beat OKC? No. Can they beat the Lakers? I don't think so. Can they beat Denver? I don't think so either.
Yeah, and they're currently sitting at they're sitting in the 4th spot, I believe.
They're 1, 2, 3. They're in the 5th spot.
They're below the Lakers have jumped them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're below the Lakers now.
Yeah. At number 5, and got a nice lead over the Clippers for the 6th spot in the West. Who said? Somebody said the the Memphis is a fake 2 seed. Mo. I mean,
well, they're not a fake, but I don't think they're going to be there. I think Denver's going to catch them, and the Lakers might catch them. I mean, both. Actually, the Nuggets are tied with Memphis right now, 37 and 20, right?
Yep.
And the Lakers are only 2 games behind them. I could see Memphis ending up 4th or 5th. So that's probably. I think you're right. They're not a real 2 seed. And they're going to end up probably at the 4th seed, maybe the 5th, where they belong. That's a good spot for them.
Yeah. Lakers 34-21. Hey, Luka's got a few games under his belt now. What are your thoughts on the Lakers?
Well, I think obviously with Luka and LeBron, you have a chance to win and almost win any series, really. Because those 2 guys are phenomenal, even LeBron at 40. And if Luka's healthy, you got Austin Reeves, who's playing really good. You have Hachimura, who's a really good player at this point. You got Gabe Vincent, who's coming back and starting to play a little bit minutes now. But one thing you're missing, right? If you're going to play Denver or somebody, you're missing a center. And, I know they picked up the veteran Alex Len, who's a big body and can maybe fill that spot. So you're going to have to really kind of play what you are. Maybe you play LeBron at the center at some point. But I like the LeBron Luka thing if they're healthy. I would be more scared playing the Lakers right now than I would Memphis or Houston, wouldn't you?
Yeah, any team with those 2 guys on. Another guy that they've been pleased with that they brought over was Dorian Finney-Smith. He doesn't show up in the stats, but he does a lot of the dirty work for them. So,
yeah, and they kept the player that they tried to trade, Connect, who's a 24-year-old rookie, and he knows how to play and he can knock down threes, so that helps him.
Yeah, absolutely. There. You are watching. We got next. I'm Ricky Hampton with Paul Mokeski. Mo, I was going to ask you about, we talked about it earlier when we had our pregame meeting about coaches who think might be in trouble. Hey, and, we talked about Craig Smith at Utah getting fired in college. Do you think we're going to have a lot of firings in the NBA this year? Could Nurse lose his job in Philly behind all this?
No question. Nick Nurse is on the hot seat for sure. I think, Suns have had a bad season in Phoenix, but I think they're safe. Chris Finch might be in trouble in Minnesota. They'll be like usual. There's 5 or 6 firings in the NBA every year, and whether they bring up young coaches to coach or they go with the merry-go-round and fill spots with other spots. I mean, that's how Nick Nurse got his job in Philly because of the job he did in Toronto. So, but I think definitely he's on the hottest seat there is out there because we know what owners and general managers We know who they don't blame. The players. They don't blame the players. They blame the coaches. And you know who else is in trouble? The whole assistant coaching staff of the New York Knicks. All those assistants are in trouble because I think they'll keep the head coach. They're going to make some changes on that assistant staff. That's what happens. Those are the first to go, the assistant coaches, then the head coach, then the GM and players.
Oh, it's interesting you mentioned the Knicks. I mean, they are the 3 seed, Mo.
And dropping like a rock.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier they can't beat they struggled. They're 0-7 against Cleveland, Boston, and OKC, the teams with the best 3 records in the conference, in the entire league.
And I'll tell you what, Indiana, Milwaukee, Detroit, even Orlando are not afraid of them.
No, Detroit has beat them 3 times.
Yeah, so that could be a matchup thing. Who knows?
And guys, when I come on next week, maybe I will have my Detroit Pistons cap on. I got it in the garage somewhere, man.
Buy a new one, Ricky. Buy a new one.
I had it out. Hey, Mo, I had my Piston cap on since Rasheed Wallace was here.
Buy a new one. Jesus. Cheapskate.
But Pistons just won their 7th straight game, first 7-game winning streak since 2014-15 season. And Paul, this is essentially the same team that won 14 games last year under I forgot the guy's name already.
Oh, wow. You talk about, I have too. It's the guy from Phoenix.
But JB Bickerstaff, what they do, I know you guys don't see them all the time. They play hard. They rally to the ball.
Yeah, but Ricky, how many games did Cade Cunningham play last year?
He played most of the season.
I thought he was hurt most of the season.
Thank you. I'll check that.
I think Cade Cunningham was hurt a lot last year.
I think it was the year before Cade was hurt quite a bit, but I will check that.
But you know what? Sometimes, especially when you have young players and you change the voice in the locker room, and it does affect things, and you get them to play hard, and you change the mentality a little bit. You may be a little tougher on them. Monty Williams is obviously a great coach. He has been for years. He's a great guy. Maybe he's too nice of a guy for that group.
Yeah.
So, so things can change, but also they cannot change. Like in Sacramento, when you fire Mike Brown and hire Doug Christie and you win 4 out of the first 5, but now you're still in 10th spot fighting for a play-in. So,
Well, why does that happen? Almost every time a new coach come in, you get a little bump. Oh, man, they won 3 straight.
Because it gives players hope. Players that aren't playing are not playing as much as they should think, I get a chance to prove that I can play, get in the rotation. And guys that are starting can play harder and say, I deserve to stay a starter. So you don't look at these other guys behind me. That's why you get a boost right when a coaching change is.
And then it just
and it's a warning, right? The coach goes, guess who's next? Maybe you.
Yeah.
So that has an impact also. And sometimes it's because the new coach comes in and changes things. When I replaced the coach up in the Canadian Professional League, I looked at the roster, I looked at video, I saw the percentages, and the worst shooters were shooting the most threes, and the best shooters were shooting the least threes. So all I did is say, listen, this isn't happening anymore. If you're a bad shooter and you continue to shoot threes, you're on the bench. And if you're a good shooter, you need to keep shooting. And I think I won the first 7 games. But
Mo, but I gotta sit here and tell you every week I'm open, man.
You're open for a reason. You can't shoot. They want you to shoot. You're the guy that I'm guarding you saying, shoot it. You're open, shoot it. That's the same as fouling a bad free throw shooter instead of a good one, right? That's who you foul. So you let bad shoot. You're open, man. Ricky, go ahead and shoot it. Yeah, come on, man. You shoot it.
It tickled me to death every time you say that, Mo. And what do you think about that? Because Monty Williams is a good coach. But all these guys you just mentioned are excellent coaches. Chris
Of course.
Finch is an excellent coach. Nick Nurse is an
Nick
excellent coach.
Nurse won a championship and was coach of the year.
Right.
But that's just the business. You're hired to be fired. And Marcus, I think Monty would be good in San Antonio. I don't think they go that direction. I think they go younger. I think they go different. Who knows? Because Popovich has thought outside the box before, and one of his former assistants is here in Vegas, coaching the WNBA Aces, right? Trying to think of her name because I'm bad.
I'll find that out, Mo. We'll keep it rolling while I look for
Becky Hammond. Hello? Well, I think we lost Ricky. Hopefully he'll come back. But Becky Hammond, who's won 2 championships here in the WNBA with the Aces, she was on the bench in San Antonio when Popovich was there. She coached the San Antonio Spurs to a Summer League championship. Becky Hammond's could be the first female head coach in the NBA. I don't know if her window has closed already, but that would be a nice, interesting pick for the San Antonio Spurs when Popovich is done. Who I don't think he's done for another couple of years. I think he's gonna, if he can get healthy, he's gonna keep coaching as long as Wemby is healthy, and they have a nice core of younger players there also.
Yeah. Now we looked over in the West at some of the teams there. My man Detroit, Willie Green over at New Orleans, they are 14-43 Mo, and it has just been a disaster ever since they drafted Zion Williamson. I mean, all of this sitting on him, but man, a lot of it is.
When you put all your eggs in one basket, you draft a great player out of college, but he's a unique player. He's not a classical player. He's not a shooter. He's not a big. He's not a small. He's a great athlete. He can really put up numbers in a game, but does he help other players around him get better? I don't know about that. And you put all your eggs in that basket and then put on top that maybe he doesn't work as hard as you would like. And on top of that, he's hurt all the time. And that's how you bring a franchise down very, very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. 14-43, sitting at the bottom of the. I think they have they got the worst record in the NBA as of now. So they'll have a shot at maybe Cooper Flag.
Yeah, unless he decides to stay at Duke and make $2 million a year and chill on the campus. Then who do you get?
Right. They have the second worst. Washington is 9-47. I know Wes Unsell's just spinning right now, man. Seeing what happened to that one.
At the same time, I would have to check. You don't know if they have their own draft picks. They might have traded them away. I don't know that.
Yeah, that's for sure. Charlotte is next at 14-41. I saw tonight Kawhi Leonard didn't play for Los Angeles, and Ben Simmons was on the bench for the Clippers tonight. Just a rash of guys that don't play anymore.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the draft order, right? Washington does have their pick. New Orleans has their pick. Utah has a pick. Charlotte, Toronto, Philly, if they're in the top 6. Brooklyn, Chicago, Portland, Spurs at 10, Spurs at 11. So, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And one more thing on the on the Pelicans. Zion got drafted after the AD debacle. Remember his face when the Pels drafted him. I do not. Was he not happy to go to New Orleans?
Probably. Yeah, you know.
A lot of nice restaurants there. I used to live there, man.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not a New Orleans guy.
Uh,
Some good seafood, but give me Vegas or LA or Dallas or Miami or
uh, Going over in the East, Cleveland 47-10. A Cleveland Boston matchup, Mo, which we could very well see in the finals. Who you liking that?
Boston. I think I like Cleveland. I like their roster. I've said that for a long time, and they've gotten healthy. Strus is playing well. They got Jarrett Allen to play the 5 now, so Mobley can move over to the 4. But I've seen Boston play. I think they're 9-1 in the last 10 games. They're the champions. They've been there before. They got a lot of talent, a lot of depth. And I would like to watch that series, but I think Boston wins that series, especially if everybody stays healthy. The way they're playing now, Boston wins that series. They're just too good. And I would love to see a Boston OKC NBA Finals. Actually, I'd like to see a Milwaukee Buck OKC final, but if it's not Milwaukee, which is going to be a long shot. They're not out of it yet, but Boston OKC would be very, very interesting to me.
Yeah. And is Indy your sleeper? They're currently in the 4th spot, a half game ahead of Milwaukee. And that would be a great matchup in the first round, Milwaukee and Indy.
Yeah, I mean, there's some history there. I think anyone that's not matched up, in the first round against Boston or Cleveland is going to have an interesting series, whether it's the Knicks, the Pacers, the Bucks, Orlando, or your Detroit Pistons. Those are going to be tough-fought, long series.
Yeah. If they played today, Detroit would play the Knicks, and they've had success against them this year.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the Knicks are going to get Robinson back. And I know, Mo, you said losing Hartenstein was going to hurt them. Hartenstein going over to OKC has certainly changed that team and made them more formidable. And this took a lot out of the Knicks.
Yeah, Hartenstein moved to OKC and let Holmgren move over to the 4. Hartenstein's a really good big body player. And that's how he played great for the Knicks. They let him go, and then Robinson got hurt.
Yeah.
So they had nobody. They had no center when Robinson went down. So, and we know Anthony Towns doesn't like to play center. He wants to be a 4. So I think Robinson coming back is going to help them, but I don't know how well it's going to help them.
I was just going to say, because I was reading he could be back this week. But, Paul, he hadn't played since last May.
Yeah, but you got 2 months and 20 games to get ready. Plenty of time.
Okay.
Plenty of time. I mean, if and you don't rush them, you bring them back, let them play 10, 15 minutes, then you up it to 20, and then you take 20 games in 2 months is plenty of time. Now, if you're talking about, 5, 6 games till the end of the season, you got a problem because you won't be up to speed, at least in the first round. But you got plenty of time if he comes back in the next week, for sure.
Yeah, so that could change the perspective of their entire team. Detroit's at 6, Orlando's at 7. They are 4 games behind Detroit. Miami is 8, and the Hawks and the Bulls are fighting for the play-in down there.
I mean, it's Cavs, Boston. And the wild card is either the Knicks, Indy, or Milwaukee. Maybe even Detroit. But
no, Detroit's not. I'll tell you, the Pistons not ready. They turn it over too much.
They can't win.
The shooter's going to help some of that.
Can they win one series?
I think they could beat the Knicks the way the Knicks are currently constructed. Yeah.
They could beat the Bucks. They could beat Indiana. Maybe, who knows? But it's the Cavs and Celtics unless somebody goes down.
But Mo, I think the Bucks got another gear when the playoffs start because man, you got Giannis and Lopez. Lopez is a great player.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player. He's a good player now. He's a solid big. Portis is suspended for 25 games.
That hurts. Yeah,
that hurts them. He's sixth man of the. They got Kuzma, who is younger and probably better right now than Middleton was, so that helps them. But without Portis for the next 25 games or 20 games, that's going to hurt them in the standings. But if they get him back for the playoffs, but then again, we just talked about that, Ricky, right? He's going to have like 2 games to play before the playoffs. So, and Giannis has to stay healthy. He hasn't been healthy in the playoffs for the last 2 years. If he's not healthy, they're not winning. So, we'll see.
Marcus says, Houston letting Hartenstein go was a mistake. Anybody let that guy go.
Happens all the time.
And really, the Knicks, they probably could have extended him and wouldn't have to give him a ton of money and locked him up. As soon as you see what he's doing, lock this guy up. He gets on open market, and hey.
Yeah, but Hartenstein was the backup center till Robinson went down. Then he showed he could start and play effective. But then they're thinking Robinson's coming back, so he's one of the expendables probably.
Hey, yeah, Frank, we talked about it earlier, brother, but we can touch back on it. Lots of talk about injured players. Are the training methods different? Training methods, they should be better than when you guys play, Mo, because of the technology, shouldn't they?
Of course they are. I mean, when you turn an ankle when I played, here's a bucket of ice and an aspirin. Good luck. I mean, there wasn't any rehab. I mean, hell, look on the bench. There's 5 trainers and 2 physical therapists, and they got underwater treadmills and cryo chambers. And I mean, come on, man. You're on a private plane getting massaged or icing down. I mean, yeah, it's night and day from even 15 years ago. The treatment that players get. So, they can come back from injuries at a faster clip if they want to, but you have to want to.
That's the thing.
But here's the other thing, though, Frank. Players are not willing to play injured anymore, right? They're not. If they're 70%, they ain't coming back. When I played, if you're 70%, you're on the floor playing, even if it's not in the playoffs, to help your team win. But now I make too much money for that. Why am I coming back if I'm 70% and I look bad? I'm not doing that, and I risk maybe further injury. And maybe that's why I've had 16 surgeries and knees, hip replacements, and 6 foot surgery. Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah.
It is part of it.
There is a line. You can play. What is it? Explain it to us. You can play injured. You can play hurt.
No, you can play hurt, but you don't want to play injured. If you have an injury, you don't want to play. If you're hurt, everybody's hurting. I mean, if you're playing, this is 60 games in the season. Your shoulder hurts, your knee hurts, your ankle hurts, your neck hurts. Every player that's been playing consistently 1 through 8 this season, some part of their body is hurting them. It hurts. It's hurting. It's things are going to hurt. But if you're injured, if you had a strained ligament, if you have a separated shoulder, if you have something like that, you're injured. But you play when you're hurt. You don't play when you're injured. You have an injury.
Yeah. Hey, we just got a couple more minutes once again.
Yeah, Marcus, look on TV. Watch on TV, and you'll see 10 coaches / trainers and 5 players on the bench. You're exactly right. That's true. Just look. And then there's another row behind the bench. Look at that.
And Mo, are there scouts, advanced scouts at every game?
No, not anymore.
You just when did you start locking in terms of locking in for the playoffs? Too early to start looking at that?
Yeah. But you have your regular scouting reports, but there's only a couple teams. Dallas still has full-time advanced scouts. Miami does. There's only a handful of teams that have full-time advanced scouts that write up plays and tendencies. Most of it's done by some local scouts and or advanced scouts and or video. A lot done on video now, and tendencies are brought up on video, and all videos are broken down. Ricky likes to go left 30% of the time, right 40% of the time. He pulls up 20%. All of that is now charted on video now. So it used to bother me because really, if you're there in person and you're sitting close to the court, you can hear calls and see people's faces, and I could read lips to kind of tell what they're saying, and that will give us an edge in the playoffs. Most arenas now don't let advanced scouts sit close anymore. They sell those seats to make money, so they put advanced scouts up at the top, which pretty much, well, yeah, oh yeah, no, yeah, you sit up top, which is pretty much worthless.
Hey Mo, one last thing before we go. We just got 2 minutes. We hadn't talked about the impact of Jimmy Butler going to Golden State. Does he improve there? They're currently 30-27. They're 6-4 in their last 10, won 3 straight. What does he do for them in terms of playoffs?
Well, I think
right now they're just in the play-in.
Yeah, but they're only a game and a half out of the 6th spot. That's all. So if they go on a roll, they could get up to 6, maybe 5. But I think he adds a dimension that they didn't have. He can create his own shot. Obviously, Steph Curry can, but he creates a shot and creates contact and gets to the free throw line 10 times a game. They never had that before. He's like a Draymond Green who can actually score. And now you have 2 guys like Draymond and him with high IQ and Curry with high IQ. Now you got the ball humming and spacing and ball movement, but he gets them to the line. He has toughness. He's been there before. He's carried a team before. So does it give them a better chance than they had a couple weeks ago? Yes. Do they get to the West Coast Finals? No, because they don't have a big guy. They have no center. They're playing 6'8" and smaller. They have a young guy, I think his name's Post, who's 7-footer, shoots threes. That could help a little bit. He had a dunk the other day. That might help a little bit, but that's going to hurt them in the long run. Because when you get a 7-game series, you better have some physical bodies that are taller than 6'8" to bang with these other guys.
Yeah. Hey, man, we'll have to get to these questions again next week. And Mo, we need to talk about the importance of the big man, because when you go back over the last few championships, everybody had a big fella making significant contributions. But we got to get out of here. For Paul Mokeski, I'm Ricky Hampton. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Subscribe to us on Sports Fluent. Good night, everybody. See you next Monday. Peace.
Spread the word. Spread the word.
Oh, Canada.
Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.